I'm Johan Rashivega with Holyoke Media, and here we are in our studios at One Core Plaza in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and I am with Marina Lopez, composer from this cohort of Si Se Puede, Yes We Can, and it's great having you back in Holyoke, especially after the residency of 2021, especially after the residency of 2022 that could not be completed because of COVID. But you are here, as the rest of the composers and victory players, ready to present your piece, Nieve, Snow. And I would like to know about the meaning and how do you feel being able to present your piece in this cycle of Si Se Puede.
So Nieve is about the Mexican-American experience, which is what this commission was about. And I was looking for an element, something that could, looking for something that could, an element that could encapsulate the difference of a way of life between Mexico and the U.S. In Mexico, and especially in Mexico City, in like the southern part of Mexico, snow is something really rare and kind of like mythic. You hear about it and you see it in movies, but you don't really see it in real life that much. If you see it, it's at the top of mountains and it's like something hard and like slushy. It's not really like the fluffy snow we know here. And for a lot of people who immigrate to the U.S. from the global south, seeing the snow for the first time is kind of like this seminal moment, this pivotal moment if I'm in a different place. And there's a lot of awe in seeing this thing that at some point becomes kind of everyday and maybe even like burdensome. But yeah, so I used the element of snow, and I interviewed people who either immigrated to the U.S. or were born Mexican-American, born in the U.S., or Mexican born that have visited at some point. And I asked them about snow. I asked them a series of questions about snow, and their answers were the kind of the backbone of this piece.
So by integrating sounds of voices that have been recorded, those became part of Nieve as the score, as the notes, as the rhythms that victory players are now in charge of interpreting, reading, and making music.
So actually, their words are not, they're not going to be like played, recorded with the players, but the players are going to say the words themselves, and they're going to use the words kind of as a basis of the rhythms they play. So sometimes the public is going to see the players play like a rhythm, but what the players see in their sheet music is not a rhythm, but the words. And they play the rhythms of the words. They have to think the words in their minds. And that comes with a combination of sometimes playing the rhythms and sometimes speaking the words and playing. And so there's like a whole range of things they do with the words, but the words are the kind of the DNA of the piece, if you will.
How it has been for you as a composer, the opportunity of engaging and having direct conversation with each one of the musicians, so victory players, in order to understand better your piece, your idea, and for them to be able to get the best possible advice on how to perform it.
I don't know if I could have done anything like this in any other situation, because I had 2 years to develop the idea. We had multiple meetings and getting to know each other and rehearsals, and they're like top-notch players anyway. But getting them to engage with the text in like such a deep way and have to pronounce the words, all these things that they have to do, is something that has been incredible. The piece is also, I know that's the most challenging part of the piece for them, but it is also based on the structure of snow, like the molecular structure of snow. I think you can sort of hear that. I don't know, that would be an interesting question for the audience. But yeah, the harmonic structure of the piece is all based on kind of like snowflakes. So I read a bunch of books about snowflakes and kind of used that for the piece. So having such a like deep and long process to write a piece, I don't think I could have done in any other situation but this like 2-year residency thing that we did here. And now it's all finally like coming to a close. We're in the final rehearsals and everything is kind of like starting to gel together, and I'm getting to hear other people's pieces, the other composers who I met last year, and I got to hear the kind of the kernel of the ideas they had. And now to be able to hear that those ideas flourish and kind of be like polished in order to show next week, that's been a really wonderful process.
In your personal experience, growing up in Mexico City, now living here in the United States, you also had the opportunities of interact with different people who have been migrating from different places, or at least trying to. And particularly your experience working with migrating children at the border, in the southern border of the United States. How these experiences influence the creation of snow, of nieve?
So when I volunteered with unaccompanied migrants, it was actually in Pittsburgh. I think they had been in Texas, and then they just kind of bussed them to like different, like they flew them to different parts of the country. The place where I was kind of this Catholic orphanage. And before that, they had been in detention centers, and they were pretty happy to be out of that situation. So even though they were quarantining and it was scary, and they were little kids, like 6, 7 years old, it felt like an upgrade to them to have like food and toys and clothes and all these little things that they had. So I've been working with that. So that's the experience that kind of inspired this piece. It was April of 2021, and COVID was still pretty much like strong in people's minds. Like vaccinations were just rolling out, and I was volunteering at this center that had all this influx of children, and we were all kind of dressed as, they were quarantining from each other. We were all dressed with like hazmat suits, like little like astronauts coming over to them, and a lot of the volunteers didn't speak Spanish, so the kids were kind of confused, but there still was a lot of joy and like just childlike wonder in them. They played with Legos, and they like asked for food, and they just kind of were kids doing what kids do. And there was a moment where this like early spring snowstorm rolled through, and all of them in their rooms just kind of knelt by their windows and watched the snow, laughing and having like such an amazing time seeing this phenomenon happen for the first time ever. They were from Central America, most of them, so they had they'd never seen snow before. And that's where the inspiration for the piece came from. I've also kind of been involved with migrant organizations in Pittsburgh, with people who like are not new arrivals but are nonetheless part of the migrant, like Mexican and Latin American community in Pittsburgh. And yeah, I mean, that's been an intense experience. It really depends on what politicians are doing at the time. They are the most vulnerable and the people who are affected first, depending on who's in power. It really, really matters to them. And they have no say in, because a lot of them can't vote. So they have no say in like what happens to them. But yeah, that's been something I've been involved in sometimes more, sometimes less, like throughout the years.
How do you feel after making this piece, and not only because being part of the cycle of Si Se Puede for Victory Players, but in general as a composer and as someone who has some of these experiences and also representing the stories of other people. This whole work contributes to amplify the stories and the voices of people who go through these experiences that could be this perfect opportunity to make people aware of these situations when they don't know anything about it, and for the ones who know, to connect and have that moment of awe that you talk about.
I am very proud of this piece, not only because of the, like all the words that came together, but just because technically I think it's probably like the most ambitious piece I've ever, like one of the most ambitious pieces I've put together. And a lot of the things that, the way the piece unfolds really comes from these words. So I feel very grateful for the people, for my aunt and my grandparents and my friends and acquaintances and people I don't even know that kind of answered my call for like these questions and filled in their thoughts. There were many things I couldn't include in the piece, but I read all of it and absorbed all of it. So hopefully even the ones that aren't there are there in a way. And it's just incredible because there's so many conflicting emotions, especially the second movement, which is about the American dream. I asked people what they thought, what came to their minds when they heard the phrase the American dream, and people had vastly different takes on it. And they really kind of put together the kind of all these conflicting emotions that it's really hard to say out loud in words. Because everybody had so many different things to say, it kind of put together something that I feel represents the immigrant experience in that you are happy and grateful and for the opportunities, and at the same time you see the injustice around you and you kind of cannot separate yourself from those who aren't as lucky as you are, because they are also migrants to this country from a place like yours. One of the things about these children that really got to me was that they looked like me. They looked like my cousins, and they looked like, if you see a picture of my cousins when you were little and you put them next to these kids, it's just, it's the same. These kids could have been my classmates. They could have been my, people I grew up with, my neighbors, but they happen to be to grow up in Guatemala and be in a time and a place where their parents felt that there was nothing else to do but to send them alone to the American border, and that is something that I don't know. I forgot the question, but yeah, it's very it's something I don't want to forget, to know that there's always going to be the issue of people who want a better life for themselves and through no fault of their own are in a situation where they want to, where the best option seems to be migrating to the US, and the injustice that happens when chances aren't given and when people are treated as subhuman just because of where they're from and the situation they find themselves in. So that's not all that's in the piece. There's also the experiences of people who migrated in different capacities and people who visited on vacation. So that's in the piece too. But it all kind of came together into this piece.
All connected through nieve.
Connected through snow. Yeah, they all just look at the snow and had a reaction to it.
What a beautiful way to introduce the audience to the concept and the inspiration of your piece, and I'm sure this is going to be a really special experience to listen to during this residency here in Holyoke of Victory Players in this cycle, Si Se Puede, Yes We Can, and you being part of it with your piece, Nieve. Thank you so much for this time and this opportunity, and looking forward to listen to this piece and more of your upcoming work when it's ready.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be back here again. It's always been really nice visiting Holyoke. It's been very welcoming. So thank you.